For centuries, a dream captivated sailors, merchants, and empires, a shortcut through the Americas, a waterway that would slice through the narrow isthmus of Panama, connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and rewriting the map of global trade forever. But this dream was a nightmare to build. The Panama Canal, one of the greatest engineering marvels of the modern world, was carved out of jungle, mountains, and swampland at a staggering human cost. This is the story of disease, deception, and the sheer determination that built the world's greatest shortcut. Our story begins not with success, but with a spectacular failure. In the 1880s, Ferdinand de Lesseps, the French diplomat celebrated for building the Suez Canal, turned his sights to Panama. He was a national hero, a man who could seemingly bend deserts to his will. Confident and charismatic, he promised a sea-level canal, just like in Egypt. But Panama was not Egypt. The tropical climate, torrential rains, and unstable soil were unlike anything his team had ever faced. The Chagres River would swell into a raging torrent during the rainy season, washing away months of work in a single day. The Culebra Cut, a massive excavation through the Continental Divide, became a site of constant, deadly landslides. But the most terrifying enemy wasn't the mud or the water. It was invisible. Mosquitoes, tiny insects carrying two of the deadliest diseases of the era, yellow fever and malaria. Workers fell ill by the thousands. The French hospitals were so notorious for death that many sick men chose to hide in the jungle rather than be admitted. They called the hospital wards the antechambers of death. The French believed these diseases were caused by miasmas, or bad air rising from the swamps. They built beautiful hospital grounds, with flower beds and water features, unknowingly creating perfect breeding grounds for the very mosquitoes that were killing their men. After nearly a decade of struggle, with over 20,000 lives lost and the company bankrupt from corruption and technical failures, the French effort collapsed. The dream was dead, and the jungle began to reclaim the half-dug ditch. But the dream wasn't dead for everyone. A rising power across the water, the United States, saw an immense strategic opportunity. President Theodore Roosevelt, a man of action, understood that a canal was essential for American naval power and commercial dominance. After the Spanish-American War, the journey of the USS Oregon from California to Cuba took a grueling 67 days around Cape Horn. A canal would cut that journey to just 3 weeks. The only problem: the land belonged to Colombia. When Colombia rejected the U.S. offer for the canal zone, Roosevelt took a more aggressive approach. In a controversial move, the U.S. supported a Panamanian independence movement. With American warships blocking Colombian troops, Panama declared its independence in 1903. Just days later, the new nation signed a treaty granting the United States control over the canal zone in perpetuity. It was a masterful, if ruthless, piece of geopolitical maneuvering. Roosevelt would later boast, "I took the isthmus," with the politics settled. The Americans took over the abandoned French equipment in 1904. They were determined not to repeat the same mistakes. The new chief engineer, John Stevens, immediately recognized the first battle wasn't against dirt and rock, but against disease. He famously declared, "I am going to build the Panama Canal, but we will not have the same record as the French." He put a halt to all excavation and focused the entire effort on sanitation. This monumental task was led by Dr. William Gore. Building on the recent discoveries that mosquitoes transmitted yellow fever and malaria, Goethals launched one of the largest public health campaigns in history. His army of 4,000 workers drained swamps, fumigated buildings, installed window screens, and covered water cisterns. It was a relentless war on the mosquito. Within 2 years, yellow fever was completely eradicated from the canal zone, and malaria cases dropped dramatically. The tide had turned. With the workforce now safe, the engineering could begin in earnest. Stevens abandoned the failed sea level plan and opted for a more ingenious lock and lake system. This design would dam the Chagres River to create the massive man-made Gatun Lake, which would make up a significant portion of the canal's path. Giant locks, the largest concrete structures ever built at the time, would act as water elevators, lifting ships up 85 feet to the level of the lake and then lowering them back down on the other side. In 1907, Stevens resigned and was replaced by Colonel George Washington Goethals, an Army engineer who would see the project through to its completion with military precision. For the next 7 years, a massive workforce of over 40,000 people from all over the world blasted and dug their way through the Culebra, cut, poured millions of cubic yards of concrete, and assembled the colossal steel lock gates. The scale of the operation was unprecedented. Finally, on August 15, 1914, the steamship SS Ancon made the first official transit through the Panama Canal. The 10-year American effort had cost over 5,000 more lives, but the impossible dream was now a reality. A journey that once took weeks was now completed in about 10 hours. The canal was a triumph of American ingenuity and power, a symbol of a new century. It reshaped global trade routes, supercharged naval strategy, and stood as a testament to what humanity could achieve against incredible odds. Today, over a century later, the Panama Canal continues to serve as a vital artery of world commerce, a lasting legacy of the ambition, sacrifice, and controversy that brought it into being. Thanks for joining us on this journey through one of history's greatest engineering projects. If you're as fascinated by these stories as we are, consider joining our team. We're looking for volunteer researchers and writers to help us create more content. Check our About page for details on how to get involved. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to explore more moments where history was made. See you next time.